Pearl is the second film in a trilogy of horror films by director Ty West, which all star Mia Goth. She plays two different characters throughout the trilogy, Pearl and MaXXXine. And I've reviewed the first film and the last film, but I never did review Pearl, so I did want to get to it. Pearl is the prequel, so technically it is the first film in the three, although X was the first one to be released. And it turns out that in my order of reviewing, I have saved the best till last, it seems. Yeah, I really love Pearl. I thought it was a great film. Quite different to the other two in flavour, in tone, most notably because of the technicolor way in which it is shot. We go back to the farm from the first film, which is technically the second film, X. Obviously, for those who've seen the film, X followed this group of young people who are making a porn film on this old dilapidated farm owned by this old couple who turn out to be complete whack jobs. One of them is Pearl, and this film goes back to that farm when it was all fresh and nicely painted and very summery and breezy and looks like something out of The Wizard of Oz. But it's partly that separates it from the other two films. It distinguishes it, I would say. Just the setting, the way it's so vibrantly coloured, just doesn't really feel like the kind of setting or the kind of look that you would get from a horror film, particularly one as gruesome as this. Now, as I say, it is a prequel and it is all about Pearl. And what the film is actually all about is Pearl coming to terms with who she is. It's just that who she is happens to be a psychopath. She has ambitions, she has dreams, she wants to be a famous actor or actress in Hollywood. She wants to go off and do big movies and whatnot. And obviously that is something that we followed on with the other character that Mia Goth plays in the other two films, MaXXXine. Only she kind of gets to fulfill that dream, so to speak. So there's a very clear distinction between these two characters, a certain sense of familiarity, a certain sense of common goals, except one has a slight difference to the other that prevents them from being able to do that. And what it is, as I say, it's a film that's all about her coming to terms with who she is, of realising that, okay, I can't function in normal society because I am a psychopath. There are certain things I want to do, there are certain things I feel compelled to do, that will not really allow me to fit into normal society. And one of the most interesting things that I found about this movie is the relationship between Pearl and her mother, because she shares a lot of commonalities with her mother as well, because one of the other aspects of this film is not only coming to terms with who you are, but coming to terms with your circumstances, with where you find yourself. And part of that is just because Pearl lives on this farm with her parents. Her father is severely disabled, requires a lot of care, which she gives along with her mother. And she wants to get out of it. She doesn't want to do that for her the rest of her life. She wants to get off the farm. She doesn't want to work there. She wants to be a Hollywood starlet and all that. And likewise, neither does her mum. This isn't what her mum signed up for. When it's not really established what happened to make the father so disabled, but it is very clear from a particular line of dialogue that he wasn't always that way. Obviously, she didn't marry this man in this condition. This is something that happened once they got married, and when it did, the circumstances of having to care for the husband, this man that she once loved and had dreams with, wanted to do life together with, have suddenly gone out the window, and her circumstances have dictated her life. She spent her life caring for him. And the fact that she knows her daughter is a psychopath also dictates her circumstances. So for the first half of this film, like we get the sense that the mother is a nasty piece of work, a bit of a religious zealot, which is something that again is a theme that is shared with the other two films, in which MaXXXine's father is also a religious zealot. But whereas his religious zealotism is very much coming from a wrong place, coming from a dark place, I feel like the mother of Pearl, hers, not so much. She's become a dark figure for sure, and she's become someone who's quite bitter, quite twisted. But everything she does is about protecting her family. And like I say, for the first half of the film, this woman just feels like an oppressive figure. And it's only when you get halfway through the film, there's a particular sequence that happens around the dinner table when everything starts coming out, and she goes full on about, you know, just like where she is in life. She reveals that she has all the same frustrations as Pearl. You know, this circumstances have dictated her life. She is where she is, not because she wants to be there, but because her husband is severely ill and her daughter is a psychopath. So, you know, she's essentially saying, look, I'm protecting you by keeping you quiet, keeping you hidden, keeping you on the farm, and, you know, making sure you don't go too off the rails. But, you know, again, that's not something she wants to do. This isn't the life she envisioned for herself. And what we have here in this moment is two characters who both suffer from the same affliction, essentially. And it's in that moment that you kind of pity both of them to a large degree, despite some of the atrocities that both have seemingly committed. It's because of all that I just feel this is a film that separates itself from much of its ilk. You know, you think of a lot of, like, the closest comparison I can think of is Psycho. You know, you think about the Norman Bates, serial killer, and the psychology behind that. Great film, one of my all-time favourite horror films. And there's been many imitators. There's been many films that have followed in its footsteps, that have tried to get into the mind of the killer and tried to almost empathise or sympathise in some way, or certainly bring it out where they become a sympathetic figure, even though you never for once condone anything they do. And I feel like, yeah, Ti West and Mia Goth, who is also responsible for the script here, her and Ti West wrote this together. It just, yeah, I feel this is about as close as anyone's ever come to replicating the greatness of something like Psycho. I truly do think this is a great film, a really great character study, not just of Pearl, but of her mother as well. Speaking of the mother, she is played by an actress called Tandy Wright, who I only ever recall seeing in this. Now, I checked her letterbox afterwards, and there are a couple of other films I have seen her in, but just don't really recollect them. Not necessarily because of her, but just because the films weren't particularly of note for me. But she certainly gets my attention here. So this is an actress who comes from New Zealand, and I would not have known that at all from this film. I thought they genuinely got a German actor, because she's playing a German character. You know, this is it during this time of war, when obviously Germans are not particularly favoured in society, which is another reason why she has to kind of consign herself or confine herself to the farm. You know, she doesn't want to ruffle too many feathers, doesn't want to go out too often and expose herself to society around her. So you understand that isolation and the need to kind of lock herself in even more as a result of that. But yeah, Tandy Wright, phenomenal performance here, phenomenal. I honestly thought she was a German actress. I thought this was some actress they found somewhere from German cinema. Not at all. I heard her speaking in the behind the scenes stuff afterwards. Really thick New Zealand accent. But yeah, I would never have guessed, because her German accent throughout this film is flawless. I mean, admittedly, I'm not German. There might be some Germans out there who are like, oh, a bit rusty on that edge. But for me, I would never have guessed. And aside from just doing a perfect accent, her performance all round is just really phenomenal. Like I say, that the way she's able to flip how you feel about this character, and a lot of that's in the writing, but obviously it takes a really good actor to pull it off as well, and I think she does brilliantly. And of course you've got Mia Goth, who, you know, all three of these films, she's a standout. She's a really phenomenal actress and just brings so much to the character of Pearl. But I did want to mention Tandy Wright, because I think everybody mentions Mia Goth for good reason. She's phenomenal throughout all three of these movies. But I just thought, yeah, like Tandy Wright was a real standout for me, given she's not someone who, I would say, well, she's not a household name. She's not someone that I really kind of knew about or took notice of until this. And looking at her career on Letterboxd, seeing that she's not actually been in that many films, but I think she's certainly deserving of a long career and whatnot. So yeah, but yeah, that is my thoughts on Pearl. I thought it was a really incredible horror film, definitely the best of this trilogy. But what about you? Have you seen all three films in this trilogy? And if so, which one is your favourite and which one is your least favourite? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this review, and until next time, crack in.